I think PS5 Pro will perform better in practice than the presentation suggested. As Sony could hardly show off games that currently look bad on PS5. I nonetheless can't see it selling well, even with a price cut. Will low PS5 Pro sales kill Sony's appetite for midlife Pro updates? And will it also kill developer interest in spending time on PS5 Pro features?
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a kind of interesting question here, which I think Eurogamer produced an article with a similar idea, which is to say that the reaction to the PS5 Pro so far hasn't been particularly great, but if it is a failure, will it kill off the concept of a Pro console upgrade happening in future? What do you think about that one, Oliver?
Well, I mean, it'll depend. I mean, this person says low PS5 Pro sales. We don't know whether the PS5 Pro will sell low sales. We also don't know what Sony's internal metrics would be for low sales. If they sold, I think it was something like 20% of PlayStation 4 consoles were PlayStation 4 Pro consoles subsequent to that console's introduction, something like that. Yeah. So if they have a bar, I would suggest that if it comes close to that number, given the fact there's a huge price premium over the PlayStation 5 for the PlayStation 5 Pro, whereas the PlayStation 4 Pro slotted in at the original PS4 price, which is pretty remarkable if you think about it in retrospect. Yeah. Then I think that will be a sales success and Sony will be happy with it. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the developer interest, I think doing PS5 Pro integrations should be not that hard because PSSR likely uses similar inputs to FSR2 and other common upsampling solutions. And the ask is not that enormous for a PS5 Pro mode. For the performance modes, it's basically keep settings the same, largely the same, including resolution, maybe keep it roughly the same, maybe bump up a few settings, but then add PSSR to 4K, and you're in pretty good shape. So yeah, I mean, I think it should be pretty okay, and I think the reality is that we're facing a console universe here where we're going to see much more incremental upgrades, so I think this is just the way things go. Unless the PS5 Pro is a huge failure, in which case Sony's going to have to rethink a number of things, I suspect, for their PlayStation 6 plans.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Alex, do you think it could kill off the idea of a Pro console in future?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, PSVR 2 killed off Sony's VR dreams, probably, right? So did Vita, for the longest part, killed off their mobile dreams. So yeah, that is possible. One thing will also kill developer interest in spending time for PS5 Pro features. Now, this one I actually have a more nuanced opinion about because I always look back about Xbox One X, and there was a couple of Xbox One X upgrades from developers where I just thought like they completely missed the boat. Like it would still have like Xbox One quality settings,
right? Yeah,
but at higher res, which is like to me like what are you doing? Like really, like as soon as you have to make something, like you have to code against it in a dedicated way where it is a bespoke platform that they need to target, well, then it means more time investment. And if it is such a low margins thing for them, it may not get as much attention as it possibly deserves. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of PS5 Pro upgrades that we think are kind of not so great. Like just they don't go as far as they should. And in the PC space, I would always complain about those things. For example, like if a game just like leaves something at like console like settings, even though it doesn't need to, I will complain about it in a PC video. That kind of thing can happen with the PlayStation 5 Pro. And I think that's a weakness as well with the console model of it needing to be dedicated machine that is coded against in a specific way, versus here are a bunch of settings and you make the game look better yourself through those settings. So I think that's like a weakness that maybe over time when Sony gets to their PS6 generation, it'll be different because they'll have maybe continuing ecosystem of PS5, PS5 Pro, and PS6 all at the same time, and they'll be lasting for the similar amount of time. Like maybe PS5 is actually like a 15-year machine. Who even knows? But at that point in time, I think just having to make developers spend extra amount of time for a specific version of the game is unreasonable versus that fronting that cost to the consumer in terms of they pick modes and they pick graphics themselves. I know Oliver doesn't like that, but I think that's just maybe the trajectory a little bit here, because I do think it is actually annoying for a developer to have to specifically support a better platform. Or even
I don't know, Alex. I mean, if we're positing that Alan Wake 2 on PlayStation 5 Pro has a 30 FPS RT feature, they wouldn't have coded that feature from scratch. It would have been backported from PC, right? So
potentially.
So yeah,
potentially. I mean, there's a different API there.
Yeah,
getting in the way.
That's a fair point. But I do think that, you know, ultimately games are designed to be scalable, and they are designed to, you know, do great things on higher end hardware. So there are the features, you know, they're not coming up typically with these features from scratch. They are there. They just need to be adapted.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm always so skeptical about it because I see just how not well handled PC versions are.
Fair point.
And, you know, so I always feel like when Xbox Series X gets like the shaft, for some reason, I'm always like, yeah, I know what that's like.
Yeah, the concept of this killing pro consoles, I mean, it's definitely a possibility, as you like to say. I mean, it's a possibility. As to whether it's actually going to happen, it all comes down to the expectation levels Sony has for the hardware. The difference between the Pro and the PSVR 2 is that it's going to be supported. Sony has mandated that there has to be support for every game. Going to have 50 games at launch, seemingly. Between 40 to 50 is the tally, apparently. So, you know, that's just going to continue in the same way that it did with PlayStation 4 Pro. However, you know, with PlayStation 4 Pro, there were some quote unquote lazy sort of upgrades. How many games did we see on PS4 Pro that were just basically the base version running at 1440p, for example? It's really key that that innovations like PSSR are actually used. But ultimately, I think, you know, most developers are going to be using FSR2. So, you know, hopefully the drop-in for PSSR would be relatively straightforward. You would think that Epic already have a plugin integration for PSSR for Unreal Engine 5.
I hope so.
You'd think, right? So, well, I'd say the chances are better than PSVR, but the price is going to be a test for the market.